Hi there, this is Phil with Phil Effects, and I got another tutorial here. Today I want to review just a couple of homework assignments that some of my students did because they had some interesting problems with some of the UV mappings that they did, and I thought these might be interesting to some other people. So I'm going to work through just a couple of different examples and things that I did and how I corrected them, and hopefully this can help you out. So we've got this ray gun here, and this is the initial pass at doing the UV mapping. You can see the student went in and actually even went as far as to do some bump maps and some other things, and at first glance it doesn't look too bad. But let's go ahead and look at this nozzle and see what kind of issues we might have here. So if we call up the UV editor, I've got the texture is turned off. You can see the texture if we put that on, but I'm not interested in seeing the texture. I'm really interested in seeing the mapping. So right off the bat, we can see that there's an issue here, because if we use the shaded feature here, we can see that we have blue here, but there's this purple pink area here, and what that's indicating is there is an overlap of UVs. So the first thing we need to do is see if we can't fix that and get that corrected. So we go into UVs, select the UV. Let me select one command, command right click on the Mac, control right click on a PC. Let's go to shell, and we select all those. Let me hit the W key and let me move these off, so we can see that in moving these off, that we have actually two overlapping pieces. And so here's one set of UVs over here, and those are oriented correctly, but we've got these other UVs here, and those are flipped, and that's where we have this pinkish color. So what we need to do is select those and go in and flip those. And actually, before we flip it, I can see that there's a little asymmetric sliver that we have over here. And so before I even do that, what I think I may want to do is well, actually, no, let me go ahead and flip this. So I'll flip this and get the orientation correct. So we go here and we'll just do a flip, and now that's correct. All right. So we can see that we have this fixed. And I want to take this little sliver over here and made it to the associated area over here. So let's go in and we'll get that knife tool. And I'm just going to click right down here. Oops. Let me zoom in so I'm a little bit better with that. Take the knife tool and we'll just click, click, and click. Cut that off. All right. So we have that cut. And go in to edge mode. So let me drop the cut tool. Let me go in and grab edges, and we'll select just those edges right there. And you can see that these edges over here are selected, and actually I want to go in and select this top edge too. So let me hold down shift and select that, and select this edge. So I have all of those edges selected. Then we go over here to our move and sew edges, and we move and sew that. And now we have that in the correct place. There's a little bit of misalignment because this thing was inset, so we can fix that real quick. So we can go in here into UV mode, and let me select all of the UVs on this edge, and let's use this alignment tool and push things out to the edge so that's straight. And that will get rid of any distortion there. And then do the same thing over here, because when I did that cut, it pushed this side in. So we want to align over to that edge. So now that's cleaned up and we have that fixed. And if you're looking close, we have another problem here we need to fix. And we have a hole in our UVs. And how this happened, I'm guessing that when the student went in and was selecting faces, there was a face that didn't get selected. So we've got this hole right here. There's numerous ways that you can fix this. My recommendation is, if you saved your selection sets, which you should always do, is go back in and just redo the selection set, add this particular face, then go back in and reproject your projection to regenerate this UV. That being said, if you're in a bind or you've got a really complicated UV and you just finished 3 days worth of edits on it, and then you discovered your hole, you may not want to do that. So you may want to go in and try and figure out, is there a way I can patch something like this in? Well, let's take a look and see how we do this. So first we need to find where this is. So I'm going to select these UVs and see what gets highlighted. And we can, in fact, find this. So here we can see, if I take my camera and move it just a little bit. All right, kind of trying to line this up so I'm fairly good, because you're going to see what I'm going to do here with the camera in just a second as part of how I fix this. So let's go into face mode. And so we get into faces, and I pick this face, and here's the corresponding face, and I pick this face, and here's the corresponding face. So over here, this is the face that we missed, and this is what we need to UV map. So the quickest, so a way to do this, I'm not going to say it's the only way to do this, but a way to do this is we just go in and we do another projection. And so the way I'm going to project this is, that's what I said, I'm going to go in and zoom in on this face about as best as I can, get it kind of square, and let me park this, and we're going to do a camera-based planar projection, or I could actually just go in here and do planar, and I do a planar mapping, but I'm going to make it camera-based, and so we're going to project using the camera. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and we'll say project, and come back here, and there it is. All right, so that was that little face right there, and I did it with a camera-based projection. And so I can go in here and I can kind of rotate this just a little bit. It obviously is way too big, but we're going to fix that. So we'll go in here and get my scale tool, and I'm going to scale this down quite a bit. All right, and your first reaction might be to say, well, let me just go in and do a move and sew on that. So I can just go in and go into edge mode and select these edges and go over here and say, just give me a move and sew. Well, you can see what that does. That kind of makes a mess, and that's not the cleanest way and fastest way, or at least the neatest way to do it. So let me undo that and go in here and go into UV mode, select this, and I'm going to scale this quite a bit this way and scale this way, get my move tool and put this inside here. All right, and now that this is inside, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to get each of these UVs, and I'm going to move these so they're very close to their corresponding edge. All right, and it doesn't have to be exact, because I'm going to straighten some things out here when I get it aligned, but I want to be a lot closer. So we get these, get these edges and get it close. Okay, and now that it's close, I can select edge, select all those edges, and now I can do a move and sew. All right, so we do a move and sew, and that's not too bad. That actually cleaned it up pretty much. If you wanted to, and you wanted to be very precise, what you could do is then go in and get the into UV mode, and I could snap get UVs above and below, and I'd have to look and see who was the closest. It looks like this pulled in maybe just a little bit, so if I align this way, that would get those exactly aligned. All right, and then if I went and grabbed that UV and this UV and moved it that way, that would get that perfectly aligned. And so you can see what I'm doing. You can go in and you can clean this up to get it so it's absolutely precise. But in general, we fixed that hole. We took the pieces over there, we fixed the overlap, and that pretty much cleaned these up. The last thing we want to do is we obviously want to get the placement so this is all within the right space. So I would take this and shrink this down, move this up just a little bit, take this and scale it, W key, and move this up and go from there. Now I'm not looking on this one as far as distortion goes. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the next exercise that another student did. I'm going to hit pause here while I open that up, and then we'll walk through and look at some distortions and some other things that, some other edits that we do. Okay, so I'm back again, and I've got another student's project in here, and this one looks pretty good too. But again, there are some issues here that I want to work with. On this one, I'm not interested in looking at the whole gun. I really want to look at just the chamber. So let's take the rest of the gun here and hide that. Control H, and let's just look at the chamber here. And so looking at the chamber here, there's a couple of issues that you can probably see right off the bat. For starters, we got a seam right on the top, and the seam here doesn't align with this seam right here, and that's going to cause some issues, especially if you put a texture on there. And there's some misalignment in the sizes of the rectangles, so you can see that the boxes rather. These are more rectangular and they're smaller. These are bigger up here, and it's a little bit of a different size even down here. So let's get things started. Let's go, same kind of thing. Let's go call up the UV editor, and let's take a look at the UVs and see what we got here. Same kind of a problem as in the previous student right off the bat. One of our faces is flipped. And so we can see that, and we can see with the flipped face right here. So the quickest way to do that is go into our UV mode, select these UVs right here, and go ahead and flip that. And that takes care of that problem right off the bat. The next thing I want to look at is, actually we've got, the way that this was initially mapped, it was mapped by taking three different sections. So we got that section, we have this section, and we have this front section here. And so what I'd like to do is combine these so all of these three sections are just one section together. So the quickest way to do that is let's get into edge mode, and let me select some edges here, and I'm trying to see what lights up. There we go. So we have these edges selected, and they line up with those edges. Now one of the things I want to make sure is that things are lined up. So let me line up these two, and lo and behold, if I select just the bottom two, I get these top two lined up. If I select the two over here, these two over here. So these are lined properly. So all I can do is just go in and select this. Let's go up and do our move and sew, and we stitch those together. And we've essentially put those two pieces together. So right off the bat, we've got things joined. Now what I'd like to do is take this part and align it. Now I already know we've got a misalignment, right? So we have a seam that's over here and a seam that's right here. And we have to be able to, we need to fix that. So the way that we fix that, first off, is let's see how things line up. So if I select these edges down here, and note what happens, okay? So I select these two edges, and I'm getting this edge over here and this edge over here highlighted. So if I select this guy maps to that, and I select this one maps to that. So there is a problem. So I would like to have this piece actually put this end quadrant, these 3 UV blocks here, really need to be over here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to cut this end off and paste it over here so things line up correctly. And that just means we get our knife tool and we go in here and we just cut these down and get those cut. Drop the tool, go into edge mode, select these edges, they're over there, do our move and sew, and now if we select all of these edges, they all line up with that, and if I select these two down here, they line up with those two there. If I select these two over here, it lines up with those two over there. So now we're in a position where we can take this whole bottom piece, select all those edges, go up to our move and sew tool and move it, and we can just put it right there. Then we can go into UV mode, select the UV, Command Shift, go to shell, W, and pull that down. Okay. All right. So we've come a long way with that. We still have some issues we need to fix. The next thing I'd like to do is this seam is on the top, and I really would like the seam to be on the bottom. And again, the best way to do that is we need to take and essentially split this in the middle. So if I take and select these UVs right here, those correspond to going right down the bottom. So that is what I'd like to put, there is where I really want to put the seam, right? So what we really want to do is we want to go in there and put that seam in there. So again, the same kind of thing. Let's take the knife tool and we want to split this right down the middle and have that split. Okay, so before I do a move and sew, actually I'd like to straighten out these end edges just a little bit. It'll make things a little bit cleaner, and again, we can do that. Let's drop the cut tool, go over to our UVs, and we select these end UVs, and here's where the align tool comes in handy. And so I can go in and I can just select these and align these. And in fact, I'm going to do that with a couple of these, working my way through just to get these things lined up a little bit better. Here's where that alignment tool again is very handy, because it allows you to very quickly go in, line your UVs up so they're gridded next to each other, and this helps to remove any distortion that you might have. Okay, so I think we got things fairly cleaned up, and so now I want to go into edge mode, select these edges. Again, I'm only interested in this edge here, which is this one over here. We go and we get our move and sew edges and zoom out, select all these UVs. Oh no, I selected edges. I want to select UVs. Select UVs, that way I only get those. There we go. Pull that back, and now we can see that that seam is on the bottom. But even that is a little tough to see. But if I go in, just grab an edge here, there's the seam. And so I've successfully placed that seam on the bottom. You can see there's a little bit of distortion. These squares are just not quite exactly the same size. But we've managed to put that seam on the bottom. And so now the last thing I want to do is we can still see that we've got some distortion. Look at the size of the boxes here versus the size of the boxes here versus here. So we've got some obvious distortion going on here. And again, Maya comes to the rescue. We've got this new distortion tool, and we can see things right off the bat, and we can see where that distortion is. If you wanted the distortion to be clean, these should all be the same color. And so what we're wanting to do is you'd like to make things such that they're all the same color. So what I'm going to do is go in and I'm going to select these UVs and pull this down so I have some room to work with. All right. And take just those UVs, and if I stretch these out, that doesn't work, but if I bring it in, okay, that coming in is getting me close to the right kind of color, so it's lightening things up, which is what I'm looking for. And so I can go in, get those, get my move tool. Now I just hold down Control and I deselect one row, and then I can move that in. See how that works? Hit Control, deselect that row, and move that in. Okay, so now then I can go in and I can grab this whole row, and we can pull that out just a little bit. Hit Control, deselect that row, pull this out just a little. There we go. Hold down Shift, add both of those in, pull this out. See how that's lightening up. Shift, add that in, start to pull that up. Shift, add that in, and pull that up. Shift, pull this in, pull that up. I'm going to hit pause here real quick because you don't need to see me do all this, and I'll come back when I get all this clean. Okay, I'm back and move things around a little bit. A couple of the other things I did, I was sliding things vertically up and down. I did do a couple of horizontal slides. Maybe if you noticed it was a little bit pink in the middle and I had a little bit of pink on both of the edges. Those are where I made my cuts. I grabbed those UVs on both sides and pulled things apart. So I've got a fairly uniform color now. Let's take a look here and see what this looks like with the UV checkerboard, and this is starting to look a lot better, a lot more uniform. The sizes both here and here of our boxes are very close to the same size, and as we get down here things look pretty good. There's a little bit of distortion right on this edge. See if we can see which edge that is. That's it there, and if I go in and I pull that just a little bit, yeah, I can pull that up just a little bit, and that cleans that up, makes it just about so they're the right kind of size. So just with some moving around, we've actually cleaned up a fair amount of distortion, and that has fixed that. So I'm going to leave this part, get this out of the way here for just a minute, and push this down. And I want to look at these two end caps real quick. So we can go in here and let me take these, pull these down, and let's take a quick look at these. So take this off, let's look at our distortion maps. And same kind of thing. The way that I first always approach these things is I look at it and see what I can't do with just scaling. So I'll take these, let me take this guy and slide him over. Let me hit my scale tool right off the bat and see what it takes to get somewhat of a uniform color, and I'm trying to get the color to match closely to the color that I have over here. All right, so I can get fairly close in that middle section. All right, and then what I want to do is hold down Shift, and let me just select this center, and through scaling I can adjust that, and then let me grab the whole thing, and I'm going to hold down Control and deselect my center. So I'm deselecting my center UVs. I'm holding down the Control key when I select, and now I have my scale tool, and right there with just a couple of quick edits, all right, I got something fairly close. Now let's turn this off, put this on, and see what this looks like. This corresponds, I believe, to this end. Yes. So if we look at this end, this looks actually a whole lot better. And again, the sizes of my boxes are very commensurate with the sizes of the boxes here. So real quick, we were able to clean up any kind of distortion that was on that end. And same kind of thing. Now we've got some other distortion going on here. It's not too bad, but we can do the same kind of technique. So I can go in here and put this map on here. Let's take a look at this with our scaling tool, and I can bring this in, and I pretty much I like to work from the inside out. So let me do that. Let me grab just this inside, get that scaled right, and then get that all selected, hold down my Control key, and deselect my inside guys. All right, so we just have that. So then I can take that, take my Control key, again deselect my inside UVs. You want to double check to make sure you don't want to leave any one of these hanging, because if you leave one hanging, it's going to mess up your stretching. Let's see, get that one there. Okay, oh, there's one up on top. All right, I think I got them all. Now I can go in and I can stretch that. So now, okay, real quick, we've got that uniform, and that looks a little bit better. Actually, it looks a lot better. So real quick, we were able to go in and utilizing the move and sew command actually quite a bit, taking all of the using the cut tool and using the distortion view that Maya has for the UVs. I was able to rather quickly go in and put the seam that was on the top, put the seam on the bottom, sew things together, align things that were misaligned, the seam that was misaligned, and basically clean this up. So hopefully between these two that you found this to be a good review and a practical overview of methods and techniques that you can use to fix UVs. This has been Phil with PhilFX. Catch you later.